the channel. If you're new here, my name is Amy.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the Everyday Epic. In today's video, we're going to be doing our February reading wrap-up, where we're going to go through all of the books that we read in February and share with y'all some cute little stats that we put together. So, yeah.
All right.
February, the month of love. It was full of romance books for both of us.
It was. It was a lot of love, books.
Yeah, more you than me.
Yes.
Kelly, of course, being the overachiever that Kelly is, had to go off and read like a jillion books in February.
Just 8.
Just 8. I'm
just
sorry.
8. I got on a roll.
Just
but
the shortest month of the year.
Now, I told you, I screwed up my back, which if you've seen our romance trio video, you know. And so I spent a pretty solid 2 weeks either on the couch or in bed. And I couldn't move very much. I couldn't work. So I read. So I did have, I had a lot of time on my hands.
Okay.
So I think that explains it.
Yeah, I suppose that's great.
I think so, because yeah, 8 is not, that's out of the ordinary, so.
I only read 5. So, and they all happen to be book club related books, or like book videos.
Video books.
There weren't any extra ones for fun, but that's okay. I didn't think that I would really like any of these anyway. I am not a romance reader.
So glad we did this.
Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
Alright, well, let's go ahead and get into all of our lovely stats. So, as I mentioned, I read 5 books in the month of February. They were Project Hail Mary, Jane Eyre, Mountain Laurel, Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Book Lovers. And my average rating for the month of February was 3.2 stars. So, better than I expected, quite frankly, given that almost all of those were romance novels. I had 0 5-star reads, 3 4-star reads. I had 1 3-star, no 2 stars, and 1 1-star, which if you watched our book romance trilogy video,
yeah,
you know which one I gave a 1-star to.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Okay, so I read, again, a total of 8 books. I had an average rating of 3.4 stars, which I think is not really accurate to... I had an outlier. If I'd taken that one out, it would have been much higher. Because I had, of my 8 books, 5 were 4 stars, 2 were 3 stars, and 1 was 1 star. So I think the 3.4 is a little skewed. So
let's go on to pages,
okay.
I guess. So with my 5 books, there were a total of 2,153 pages read, with an average page length of 431 pages. My longest book was Jane Eyre. Which, when I was like going through all the pages, I didn't realize how big Jane Eyre was. Like I honestly thought that Project Hail Mary was going to be my longest book, and then it like Jane Eyre surpassed it by like 300 pages, and I'm like, excuse me.
Yeah, I didn't know it was that long either until I got the big dog down here.
Yeah,
so.
definitely didn't know that when we picked it for our trilogy either, because had I known that going in, I might have picked something different. But it's okay. It all worked out. We got it read.
It did. That's good.
And my shortest book was Book Lovers by Emily Henry, which again surprised me, and I really wish Mountain Laurel had been the shortest book.
So, actually, mine was not that much higher for pages. It wasn't. It was 2,791 pages for a total, or an average of 349 pages per book. So yeah, I mean, my pages were not that much, so I read some short books. My longest, also, Jane Eyre. My shortest book was Before the Coffee Gets Cold. That was only 227 pages. So, again, that kind of brought the average down, I think. But
yeah.
So yeah, I didn't have a whole lot more pages read.
That makes me feel a little bit better.
There you go.
A little bit, not a lot, a little bit. About 600 pages better.
2 books. 2 books. Average is 2 books.
Yeah. All right. And then moving on to genres for the month of February. Obviously, 4 out of my 5 books were romance, woo, and 1 was sci-fi. So, nothing too shocking there. Yeah. I don't want to have a month with that much romance again, ever. So, that's what I learned from February.
There you go. Okay, so I broke mine down in this way, but, well, when I talk about the books, you can see why I could have arranged it differently, but this is what I went for. 1 classic, 3 romance, 2 sci-fi, and 2 fantasy. That could be heavily skewed another way. Like, I could have easily said probably 4, 5 romance and 3 otherwise, but anyway, I went with that one.
In the month of February, as far as authors go, there weren't any that I read more than 1 book from during that month. There were 2 authors that I never read from before, and that was Jude Deveraux and Talia Hibbert. And then I had 3 authors that I've read from previously: Emily Henry, Charlotte Bronte, and Andy Weir. Andy Weir and Emily Henry are both authors that I will read from again, like without question. Even though I didn't think Project Hail Mary was as good as The Martian, I still enjoyed the book overall, so happy to read anything else that he comes out with. And Emily Henry, I'm a surprising stan for Emily Henry. Like, being a contemporary romance author, I wouldn't expect that, but I am very excited to read Beach Read now.
She's fun.
She is.
She's fun.
She is.
So in my authors, I did not have any repeats either. There were 8 different ones. I had 2 that I've read from before, and that was Emily St. John Mandel. I read Station 11, and I had previously read A Sea of Tranquility, and Jude Deveraux, because again, when I was younger, I read all the Bodice Rippers, and she was one of my favorites. She let me down on this one, though. Let me down hard. But so those were the 2. Yeah, I'll pick them up again. Emily Henry, I'll pick her up again. There was another one, a new author. I can't read this without my glasses. Megan Bannon. I really enjoyed the book I read with her. I'll definitely read hers again. I don't know if I'm into any Brontes anymore. I'm not sure about that one. Emily St. John Mandel, I'll read her again. In a pinch, I might read Talia Hibbert again, but I'm iffy on that one. Maybe.
I would read Talia Hibbert again.
I don't know. I guess probably, because I did say I was going to go back and reread some of Jude Deveraux's books because they cannot be as bad. I mean, they've got to be somewhat better than this. I remember them as being good. So they can't be too far from my memory, I hope. But anyway, so yeah, I probably would read just about everybody again. So
that's good.
Nothing too bad.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So we've talked about, of my 8, we've talked about 4 at length. So I really won't go into those, being, of course, our trio of Jude Deveraux's Mountain Laurel, Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and The Big Dog at the Bottom, and Jane Eyre. Look at that book. Again, I keep doing this every time I put it on camera. Look at that book. That was the romance trio, and then, of course, our book club for February was Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I think we've talked about all of those at length. So, of the 4 I have left, 1 I do not have a physical copy of, and that is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, Chosekazu Kawaguchi. Excuse me. It was it's a very, very short book. As I said, it was my shortest. It's set in Japan. It is about a coffee shop that there is one particular seat at a table in this coffee shop where if you sit at it and you do this special order, you can go back in time to to have coffee or meet with anyone you want, but it has to be at the point in time when that person had been in that coffee shop. So you cannot leave the seat, and it has to be someone who was in that coffee shop. So maybe, you know, in one of the, there's like several little kind of short tales, but they're all interconnected with mostly the same characters. A woman broke up with her boyfriend in the cafe, and so she goes back in time to the day they broke up. So she knows that obviously he's going to be there, and all these other things. But anyway, you can spend, the only amount of time that you can spend there is until the coffee gets cold. And you have to drink the entire cup of coffee before it gets cold. And once you finish the cup of coffee, you go back to the present. But if you do not finish your coffee, and so you don't go back, then there's consequences. It was a cute story. It was okay. It wasn't, I expected more out of it. It is by a Japanese author about Japanese characters set in Japan, so I believe there's some cultural things there that probably just didn't hit right with me. But on the whole, I found it pretty surface level. I expected some much deeper kinds of things going on, and I didn't really get that. But it was a cute little story, and I didn't mind reading it. It was kind of cute. Then, with the romance, I read Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is what they're terming cozy fantasy, about an orc who decides to give up the mercenary life and open a coffee shop in a place that's never heard of coffee before. So it's just about Viv opening up this coffee shop and the people that she attracts around her to help her open up this shop and introducing coffee. And I'm a little bit of an outlier in that I only gave this 3 stars. It was okay. Again, very surface level. I wouldn't even really call it fantasy, truthfully, even though the main character is an orc and her little sidekick over here, which I can't remember her name, but she's a succubus, and it's set in a fantasy world. And it's kind of described as high fantasy with low stakes, which is why they call it cozy fantasy. But really, to me, the fantasy was only there as mostly window dressing. It was really, if you had told a story of a woman moving to a new town and starting a new business and her struggles in starting that new business, same thing. Same exact thing. For me to be a true fantasy, the fantasy elements have to have an impact on the story, on the world, on the characters. And it just wasn't. A lot is made of people that like the descriptions of the food and the coffee and everything. And it is really good. It's very good. Really good writing. But seriously, he spent like a whole page describing a cinnamon roll, and it was still a cinnamon roll. It was just a cinnamon roll. Did it make my mouth water? Sure it did. But you're in a coffee shop in a fantasy world, and you're spending a page describing cinnamon rolls to me. I just didn't appreciate that. I appreciate the writing, but I didn't appreciate... He didn't do anything earth-shattering in this book. But it is what it is, and I think it does what it meant to do. I do quibble with calling it fantasy because I don't really think it is. But if that's what they mean by cozy fantasy, I've not knowingly read any before. It was okay. It was good. I had a good time with it. Time well spent. I think I read it in an afternoon. It's not a long book, but I am curious now. I'm going to try some more cozy fantasy to see if just the fantasy window dressing thing is like a thing with these kind of books, or if that was more like this one. But anyway, that was my disappointment, but it was still a good book. Okay, another one. The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, which is a fantasy romance set in a fantasy world, sort of. Okay, so Mercy is an undertaker and Heart is a marshal, and they do not like each other. So it's an enemies to lovers thing. And when we talked about like enemies to lovers with book lovers, that it was just kind of disliked. They didn't really hate each other. These two hated each other. Seriously hated each other. But they're in this fantasy world, and there's this kind of like separate area in this world, and then there's towns around, these little border towns around them. But anyway, within this place, spirits that aren't at rest kind of just float around. And then if someone dies within that area, the spirit can inhabit that body and basically raise them from the dead or use the body. So it's zombies. It's zombies. I don't remember what they call them, drudges or something like that. But anyway, as a marshal, it's Hart's job to go and basically kill these drudges or zombies. I can't remember if that's really drudges or not. But anyway, and then they come and of course bring the bodies out and bring them to the undertakers, which Mercy's an undertaker. Okay. So that's how they know each other. And basically they really don't like each other, but both of them are just kind of lonely in their own ways. And one day Hart sits down and writes a letter, "Dear friend." And he basically pours out kind of his heart into this letter and drops it in this mailbox. And they have this kind of magical mail system. I won't get into all of it, but his letter somehow ends up in Mercy's hands. Mm. And Mercy reads it, not knowing who wrote it or anything like that, but she feels a kindred spirit. And so she writes back. And so they end up doing this letter exchange thing. I will say one of my disappointments with this book was that for a good part of it, it was scene by scene, you've got mail. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, down to the cafe scene.
Oh.
Scene by scene. And I thought at that point, okay, I hate this book. I am not going to like this book. But that's where it ended, and then it took off from there. So it was okay, but that part, it wouldn't have been cute if I hadn't seen the movie. You know? I probably would have been like, oh, that's a neat thing. Yeah, I'd seen the movie. Anyway, yeah, of course, it's a romance. They end up getting together. They have problems. They, boy meets girl, falls in love. They fight. They break up. They get back together. It's all there. There is a bit of very convenient resolution at the end that I didn't quite appreciate very much, but it happened. But for the most part, I thought it was really good. It could have stood a bit more world building because I couldn't really get a good grasp on, especially the layout. A map would have been awesome. And then there were just some elements that were never fully explained and kind of bugged me because of that. But on the whole, for a fantasy romance, this is what I would call upper crust fantasy romance. Okay. It was good, and I enjoyed it, and I liked the two characters. I had a good time with it. Lastly, not a romance, I read Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, a pandemic story. So, this is the start. It goes back and forth constantly through the book. So you get pre-pandemic, post-pandemic throughout the whole book. But basically, this Georgia flu, because from the country, Georgia, ends up in the United States, wipes out 99% of the population. And of what's left, some of it's pretty rough and some of it isn't, as you would expect. But it's a pretty bleak landscape in this book. And I had a low-level anxiety the entire time I was reading this book. It's extremely good. If you've read any of hers before too, this is right along the same line. Extremely good writing, extremely good kind of human insights on humanity, commentary on humanity, the way different people deal with the pandemic, whether they survived it or when it's first starting, how they handle the fact that it's happening, how they deal with their own impending deaths. I mean, it's really good stuff. It was not quite the 5-star that Sea of Tranquility was for me because it was incredibly plot light, and what plot there was didn't really do it for me. But that was so outweighed by everything else. So, still would recommend this book. I've also heard that this book, Sea of Tranquility, and another one, The Glass Hotel, are all in some ways connected. Like there's little Easter eggs in them. So like if you read one, you'll notice Easter eggs in the I didn't get that. So if it's there, it's very hidden, obscure. I don't know. I might have to just skim again just to see if I can pick it up. But really liked it, and I would definitely recommend it. Just read it in a good frame of mind, because it's not a happy book, and there's really no happy endings in this book. It's beautiful though, but just be in a good mental state before you go into reading this book. So those are my 8. So yay.
Yay.
How about that? I was even kind of brief.
You were. I'm impressed.
Woohoo!
Look at you go. I'm not going to spend any time talking about my books because we've already talked about all of them pretty lengthily in other videos, so good job, Kelly.
But you read the trio and Book Lovers, but she also read our February book club. Well, our January book club book that we talk about in February.
I think I finished it the day before or the day of the live stream. So Project Hail Mary, that was finished. I actually think it was finished a couple of hours before we went live that day.
But you finished it on time.
I did finish it on time. There you go. We didn't have to wait for me for that reason.
For that reason.
But, okay. And actually, Book Lovers, our February book club book, I finished that 2 weeks early.
Because you wanted to read it. You're excited to read that one.
I was excited to read that one. But I learned very quickly that I do need to keep the book club books closer to the live, because
I forget a lot.
I forgot a lot.
Yeah, I found that too.
Yeah, so I will be saving the book club book until last.
I know. I haven't started on ours yet. I can't, because I know I'm going to blow through it and then I'll remember nothing.
Yeah.
And that's not a commentary on how the books don't impact. It's just, that's a commentary on my memory.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your favorite?
Oh, my favorite book from February was Book Lovers. That was easy. The easiest choice. Honestly, picking the best and worst books for this month was super easy.
Yeah, I imagine
there was a very big division in between my books. So, but yeah, Book Lovers was definitely my favorite. I had a lot of fun reading it, even though it was a romance. Just something about the way that Emily Henry writes, it makes it fun. It really does. Like, the characters go through problems and things like that, but it still kind of feels lighthearted to me in a way, and it's just, we just kind of flow around, and I don't know, that's how I feel when I read them. Like, I don't know, it's like a happy romance, even though it's not always happy, but
yeah. Well, we just kind of said Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. It's a Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, there's deep stuff sometimes, but overall, you just feel good.
Yeah.
But I think that's what romance is supposed to do for you. Like the happily ever after. Supposed to. Let me guess what your worst was.
Oh, I
can't imagine.
I don't think anyone's gonna guess what my worst book of February is. I'm not even gonna say the title.
It's okay.
I think everyone knows at this point.
Yeah, I think so.
I hated every minute of that book, as I said in my reading vlogs multiple times.
Multiple times. Yeah.
I will not be going back and reading any more Jude Devereaux. I will let you go back and do your thing, and if you find one, just be like, hey, maybe this one.
I'll tell you if they turn out that my memory was really bad, or that, I don't know, I was 18 and stupid. I don't know. I'll let you know if they're better. Thanks. There's one in particular I know I'm gonna have to go read because I remember just loving it, so I'm gonna go read it. But anyway.
What was your best and worst?
Well, my worst, obviously. Yeah. The one that dragged my star rating down. If it hadn't been for that one. Okay, so my favorite is actually between Station 11 and The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. And I don't know which one. I mean, I'm thinking I'm gonna pick this one.
Okay.
I do, because like I said, this one was beautiful and a deeper book than Undertaking was. But yet, like I said, I had this like low level anxiety through the whole thing. And most of the time, it really never panned out in any way. But I think that was kind of the point. Like, this is a dangerous world and everybody's on their guard all the time. It's just the way you feel all the time, whether anything bad happens or not.
Mm-hmm.
But yet, in a book, you kind of want a little payoff for that.
Yeah.
And then what passed for an antagonist, I kind of found dull. And a little bit predictable for the rest of what was really an imaginative book. So I think that's what brings this one down for me. And I think what brought this one down for me was not as disappointing. Because they're both 4-star books. So, I mean, they're both excellent. But this one, yeah, like I said, it was that whole Tom Hanks, it was the whole You've Got Mail thing. But also, parts of the plot kind of fell apart. And then there was that whole, like, how convenient at the end. But on the whole, I think I felt better about how this book came together than that one. I don't know, I feel kind of bad about it though. Like, I really ought to like this one better, but I'm thinking I like this one. And I did like this one quite a lot, and I will read from her again. Megan Bannon, who, by the way, lives in Kansas City. Boom.
Really?
Boom. Practically a hometown girl.
Practically, you know.
Anyway, there it is. I think I'm going to go with this one as my favorite, but barely. Barely. Maybe a hair. Anyway, on the whole, I really liked my reading month.
I like that cover.
It's a beautiful cover.
It matches my phone.
Isn't it? It does match your phone. It really is a beautiful cover, and I mean, it just gives you kind of that, when I first saw it, it made me think of Day of the Dead with the sugar skulls and stuff, and it has really kind of the feeling that you get. It's like a Western, it's like a Western fantasy with zombies. You might like this book, actually.
As you're sitting here describing it to me, I'm just like, I kind of want to read this book
I mean,
now.
yeah, it's a romance, but there's other parts, and the characters do spend some time apart doing their own things too, so you might actually like that book.
I'm gonna add that to my DVR.
Yeah, that was it.
That was it. That was our February wrap up.
I think I had a better month than you.
I think you did. I think you did. I mean, honestly, it wasn't terrible. Out of I had 5 books, I had 3 that I liked a good amount. So,
yeah.
I'm really not going to complain too much about it. Could have been a lot worse. Leave it at that. With all the romance I read, it could have been a lot worse. So, yeah. I'm going to take this as a win.
Yeah. And by the way, we're not dogging on romance in any way, shape, or form. To each your own. There's some really good romance out there, and if you love it, you go for it. It's not quite our thing, so we're not dogging on the genre at all. So if you like romance and you really get into it, awesome for you, and we're not dogging on you in any way, shape, or form either. It's just a personal preference of ours. Just putting that PSA in there, because
I'd much rather.
I don't want anybody yelling at me.
Yeah.
Starting a genre war or anything.
Anyway, yeah. Like I said, that's it. That's all we got. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And go on down below the video and hit that little red subscribe button and join the Everyday Adventure family so you can see our beautiful faces every Sunday.
And if you came here for the book content, please go check out Amy's entire channel where you can see everything from fashion to home decor to travel to shopping hauls. So, there's all kinds of stuff, a little bit from everybody, and if you came here for the book stuff, you can also go check out the rest of our videos for more book stuff.
Yes, we have some really great ones out there.
Oh, yeah, we do.
And yeah, join us the first Sunday of every month except for June.
Except for June, but every other every other first Sunday for a live book club chat. And if you'd like to join us on our book club, we are reading How High We Go in the Dark in March, which we'll be discussing the first Sunday in April. So if you'd like to, please read along with us. If you've read it already, go ahead and join us in a few weeks. Anyway, talk to us. Comment. We like visitors.
We like people to talk to.
We do.
Online.
We do.
Not in person. Online.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that's gonna do it for this video. So like I said, hope you enjoyed watching. And I'm Amy.
And I'm Kelly.
And we are the
Everyday
Everyday
Epic.
Epic. See you in the next one.